All right, stat students, let's step this up a level with finding standard deviation, variance, X-bar, all those kinds of things. So get a TI-84 or a TI-84 app. I chose this data. I just grabbed some data from the Chapter 3 review worksheet. So you've probably got this. You probably have all the answers on here, but I just wanted to grab something. So this is how we're going to put this in here. So my TI-84 is a little slow, so bear with me. Remember, to get into lists, we hit the stat button, and then number 1 is edit. Whenever you're adding stuff into a list, you hit edit. If you want to clear the list, if you've got stuff in list 1 and you want to get rid of it, you can do number 4, and then you have to tell it which list. So if you do the second and number 1, that says list 1, and hit enter, and it'll say it's done. If you go back into stat, I should have put something in there. If you hit number 1 or enter, it'll give you all of your lists. You can add into list 1, list 2, list 3, whatever it might be. So now I'm going to grab this and put it somewhere that I can see it, maybe down here, because I need to see that list of numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my data, this 120, 18, or 81. So I'm going to hit 120, hit enter after each piece of data. It enters it into your list going straight down. So 81, 95, 104, 113, 115, 117, 80, and 109. So that's the hard part, putting all your pieces of data in your list. So go to list 1. So then here's where we can make our lives a little bit easier for ourselves. If you hit the stat button again, it's kind of like a Google Doc. You don't have to save anything. So number 1 gets us into edit. We can sort ascending and descending. We can clear the list. I've never set up the editor before. Don't worry about that. Well, notice up on the top how edit is highlighted. If you click to the right, you end up with calc for one of your choices and tests for the next one. Go to the calc. You want to choose or click on number 1, one variable stats. We've got one list, so it's one variable. It's not like an X and a Y. I'm going to hit enter for one variable stats, and you are going to be amazed. It might actually, you might get a couple things that you have to enter through. I'm not sure. On my other one, not on this, my computer one, I have to make sure that L1 is, and then I hit enter, enter, enter. And then once you do that, it should get you to this page right here. So notice the very top thing says X bar is equal to 103.7 repeating. Remember, X bar is your sample mean. So we just allowed the calculator, as long as you typed your data in correctly, to calculate X bar for us. Notice the next two things don't look like anything helpful until you realize the standard deviation formula asks for sum of x's and sum of x squares. Well, the sum of our x's is 934. The sum of our x squares is 98,766. You've got those two things pre-calculated for you. The next two things are really important. Please pay super close attention to this. I'm not sure if I can write on the board while it's here, but I'll try. Notice right there, it's an S of x and a sigma of x. We know those two symbols. S stands for sample standard deviation, sigma stands for population standard deviation. We are always going to use sample. So this standard deviation is calculated for you. The standard deviation on the worksheet when you did this for the Chapter 3 review comes out to a 15.2 if we're rounding. Don't use your sigma. Use the sample standard deviation. And then it says n equals 9, so that's our sample size. We entered 9 pieces of data. Now, I don't know if you're looking, but there is a little down arrow next to that n equals 9. If you use your actual down arrow, we get a whole bunch of other exceptional things. If you were making a box plot, you would know that your min is 80, your Q1 is 88, your median, which is also Q2, is 109, your Q3 is 116, and your max is 120. So if you were figuring out if there were outliers, you've got your Q3 and your Q1. If you were making a box plot, everything's there. If I said find your standard deviation, you would go to your S. If I said find X bar, you've got X bar. So everything is there for you. You're welcome. You don't have to hand calculate from here on out. So be careful when you enter your data. Remember, everything's there. There are some things that aren't there, right? Mode isn't there. You still have to look at the data, or mid-range or things like that. Remember, if you know S, your sample standard deviation, you can figure out variance. Remember, to get from variance to standard deviation, you square root. So you just do the opposite. If you know standard deviation, square that number to get to your variance. So there is a nice, sneaky little shortcut. You're welcome. Enjoy. I hope that you either have a TI-84 to use or the app, because it really comes in handy. And from here on out, I won't be looking for hand calculations for those things. So that is it for our tip and trick.